The short time we had to really present my credentials, but I've been doing this study, both academic and practical and on the job, and for 61 years. So I have an idea of what these people are about, and you don't need all those years to understand that. Thanks. Okay, the big thing about Bolsheviks is they're Marxist-Leninist, which means the two parts of communism, and I heard one of the fellows over here correctly identifying socialists. There are two parts of Marx communism. The first part is socialism. It's not the first part toward communism. Marx, who I guess I kind of think he's an expert at it. He's kind of been the leader of all of it. He says, in different ways, he says in the Communist Manifesto and some other of his works, socialism is lower communism, or socialism is first level communism. A classless, stateless society, of which there has never been one, is communism, second stage, high level. But Lenin, kind of with a tacit approval of Marx in a way, and the Bolsheviks see a midpoint between these two levels of communism. And that's where Bolshevism lands. But it's really only a tactic. The middle part is called the vanguard. See, Marx, when he started, he said, and this is a favorite term of my wife, the negation of the negation. All these little independent business people out here were working, and these mean capitalists came in and they said, hey, we want you to work for us. And so the worker said, I will. That was the first negation. This mean capitalist negated that independent business person from working for himself and having the benefits of the profits of his labor. But then the negation of the negation comes in, which means now the ones who got negated, they come back to those capitalists and they say, no, now we're taking yours back for our ownership. And that's the negation of the negation. So we're back to the people again, owning these things. But Lenin said, or the Bolsheviks said, hey, these people aren't smart enough to know how to run a country and know how to run an economy. They need somebody who can run it for them. So we're the vanguard. Vanguard, just like we have in the military, meaning those people out front leading the way till the others catch up. That's Bolshevism. That's where communism has landed. It's never gone any farther in China, Korea, Vietnam, Cuba. It's never gone into a stateless classless society. And I was talking a little bit about Bolsheviks are the ultra-capitalists. And I was saying, just for example, if 25% of the wealth of the United States is owned by us little people, our mortgages and our property and vacation home and boats and all those things, and the capitalists in this country, the large, not the petite bourgeois who are little business owners with 3 or 4 or 5 employees, they don't count it in the capitalist system. But the capitalists, the GEs, all the big ones, they own about 25% of the economy. And that other 50%, and these are just for examples, is public land and public buildings and public wealth owned by the people, but the government thinks they own them. Well, when the Bolsheviks come in and get rid of those mean capitalists over there, they take the capitalists for the people, and they take the peoples for the people, and they take the peoples for the people, and pretty soon they own 100%. They control it. They do what they want to with it. In the Soviet Union, you've probably heard the little joke, but it's really pertinent. The worker said, they pretended like they paid us, and we pretended like we worked. And that was how the system went, and it was not a very efficient system. Now, in this country, we have many, 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 many names for communists. We have socialists, that we almost apologize for calling someone. We have democratic socialists, social democrats, progressives. You can go on and on and on. They're all communists. They all really say they are. If you go to the International, you will see all of them saying, we are all communists. So you can call them socialists. It makes them feel better, makes people using the term feel better, but they're Bolsheviks. They're communists. They're Marxists. And they are bad. Now, the Soviets were bad. Not the Russian people. The Russian people got the worst of the whole deal. They got stuck under it. But it was a Bolshevik system. In 1917, the Bolsheviks came to power, October 25 or November 7th, depending on whether you're doing the Julian calendar or it doesn't make any difference. The Bolsheviks came to power. Most people think it was a revolution. It was not a revolution. The revolution occurred when Tsar Nicholas was put out in February of 1917. Everybody knew that. Everybody in Russia knew that was a revolution. If you went against the Soviets, you were a counter-revolutionary. That was already decided. So the Bolsheviks were socialists, communist Bolsheviks. The Mensheviks were socialists. The socialist revolutionaries were socialists. The Maximalists were socialists. And then you had the provisional government, which had socialists in it, but really was against the Soviets. Soviets were not part of any government. Soviet means council. Anyone could open a council. You could have the Gardeners Soviet, the Bonners Ferry Soviet, North Bench Soviet. Didn't make any difference. These had no government power. But they did in 1917 Russia because the provisional government and the Soviets agreed that they would share power. Then you had the Black Hundreds and the industrialists and that. That was the split. But non-socialist, socialist. Then when you got to within the socialists, all of those kind of got along except the Bolsheviks, and they were the odd man out because they wanted to stop the war. And we turned anti-Russian in 1917. And the reason we did is because the Russians were tying up a lot of German troops and keeping them away from over Flanders and all those places in Belgium and in France. So when if the Bolsheviks got in power, they were pulling out of the war. It sounds kind of like what we had to talk here. We're going to pull out of the war. We're going to stop the war. We're going to have wealth redistribution. We're going to have free schools, free health care, free housing. All of these things were Bolshevik. That's what they wanted. Well, the other socialists, the socialist revolutionaries and the Mensheviks, they kind of wanted that too, but they didn't want to pull out of the war. That was the big separation. Now this term is Bolsheviks, comes from the word Bolshestvo, which means major, more, most, and Mensheviks means lesser, least. And so when the Russian socialists had a breakup in 2003, whether they wanted professional revolutionaries like the Bolsheviks wanted, or whether they wanted to allow everyone in, like the Mensheviks wanted, they had a vote, and Lenin's group barely got the most votes. So they were called Bolsheviks, the most vote getters, and the Mensheviks were called the least vote getters. And that's the mystery to the term Bolshevik. They were all communists, all of them. And the last thing is, it's not an ideology. It is a tactical approach to communism. That's all they are.